Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Be Like Christ. Welcome back to our Bible study. We are in Proverbs chapter 10 today. It's an exciting day because we're starting our second section of the book of Proverbs, which is a little bit different than the first one. Proverbs 10 begins the Proverbs of Solomon, and so this is kind of probably the most well-known section of Proverbs. Has these very short statements of wisdom, almost like wise quotes in it, and they cover a variety of different topics. So that's what we're going to get into today. And as I mentioned, I am going to change our outline format a little bit because these short statements cover such a variety of things. It's hard to really summarize the chapter in the way that we've been doing. And so what we're going to do today, well, actually, I'll save that till we get to page number 2 of our PDF. But if you would like our PDF, you can download it for free, as you can every day at tobelikechrist.com. Let's go ahead and cover page number 1. So first of all, we have our outline of the book. We finished section 1, the way of wisdom versus the way of folly. And today we're in the first section, chapter 10 of Solomon's Proverbs. The last 2 chapters will be Proverbs from 2 other guys, Lemuel and Augur. We'll get to those, hopefully, before too long. We've got several definitions today, and I think a lot of these many people are going to know, but just for clarity's sake, I've included them. The first one is to thwart. I use this word with my wife. I don't know if anyone else uses it, though. Thwart is to prevent something from being accomplished, or to prevent someone from accomplishing something. Then we have a babbler in verse 8. This is a person who talks a lot, often revealing themselves to be fools in their speech by talking about things that they don't know about, or talking in an incomprehensible way. We have slander. Slander appears in verse 18. This is making damaging and false statements about somebody. And then finally, prudence, verse 19. Acting carefully, moving through life cautiously and thoughtfully. A wise man moves and acts with prudence. Now you'll notice under our definitions, we have a new section. We've taken away the key themes section, and now I just have our interpretive principle. And we talked about this back in chapter 3, but it's really important to keep in mind so that you don't come out of studying the book of Proverbs with incorrect expectations of what God is going to do for you. All right, so here's the interpretive principle. As you read through the book of Proverbs, it's important to keep in mind that Proverbs discusses principles, not promises. The wise statements of Proverbs are general truths. A good example of this is Proverbs often talks about how a righteous person will live a long life, but an unrighteous person, their lifestyle will lead to death. That's a principle. Living a good and honest life generally will lead you to live a longer life, and it'll keep you out of a lot of trouble that may cause you to die early. But it's not an absolute statement or an absolute promise. There are many people in the Bible and many people who have lived post the time of Jesus who have been very righteous and godly people, but who have lived short lives. So again, think of these as general truths, not absolutes. So now we've come to page number 2, and this is the section that's really going to change for our outline. What I've decided to do here is just to select 3 proverbs, 3 of these wise statements, and to kind of highlight them in the chapter. And our applications are going to be built in here. So we're going to talk about a proverb, we're going to talk about what it means, and then we're going to talk about how it applies to us and how we can apply it into our daily lives. And we'll highlight 3 proverbs in each chapter. Maybe more, maybe less, if I have more or less to say on some of the future chapters. But today we have 3. So let's go ahead and take a look at proverb number 1 for today. Proverb number 1 comes from verse 19. Quote, "When words are many, transgression is not lacking, but whoever restrains his lips is prudent." So those who talk a lot, those who express themselves freely and have very little filter on what comes out of their mouth, they're destined to say some things that they shouldn't and to offend people. Wise men don't run their mouths constantly. They are prudent. That's that word we looked at in our definition section. Thoughtful and careful when they express themselves and how they express themselves. Wise men know that their words, their tongues can get them into trouble. And James, the writer of the Epistle of James, all the way towards the end of the New Testament, he recognized this in his writing. In James chapter 3, verse 8, he writes, "But no human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil full of deadly poison." The tongue is something to be tamed. Like a wild animal, you don't just let it run free because it's potentially dangerous. James also writes in chapter 1, verse 19, "Know this, my beloved brothers, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. So if you're a person who loves to talk, loves to hear yourself talk, maybe knows that you talk too much, this is definitely a proverb that you want to take into advisement. Okay, so now let's look at our second proverb. It's in verse 26, quote, "Like vinegar to the teeth and smoke to the eyes, so is the sluggard to those who send him." A lazy servant is an irritation to his master. When a servant is slow to do their work, it's like vinegar to their master's teeth. You ever drank vinegar? Set your teeth on edge. It's really acidic, really not very pleasant at all. Or like smoke from a fire that bothers their eyes. Have you ever been around a campfire and the smoke gets in your eyes, especially if you wear contacts like me, and it can begin to irritate and dry out and make your eyes all red, and it's annoying. A lazy servant is that kind of annoyance to his master, but a wise servant works hard to please the one who employs him. And we ought to work hard for those who employ us. Even if you don't have the best boss, you still should work hard, not because your boss is necessarily worthy, but because the Lord has called us to serve faithfully no matter what we do. Paul writes about this in Colossians chapter 3, verse 23. He says, "Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men." So we don't want to be lazy servants for men. We certainly don't want to be smoke in the eyes or vinegar to the teeth of God. Okay, now proverb number 3. This one is actually at the beginning of the chapter in verse 2. "Treasures gained by wickedness do not profit, but righteousness delivers from death." It's easy to get frustrated when we see sinful people succeeding in life, and I put succeeding in quotes there. It's difficult to watch unethical people get rich while sometimes we struggle just to pay our bills and we're trying to live a godly life. Why is it that God allows people of low moral character to enjoy wealth and ease in life? That's a valid question, but Solomon tells us here that the wealth of the wicked is of no real value, and he tells us that we need to keep that in mind, keep things in an eternal perspective. Sure, these rich people can use their money to buy material things, but in the big picture, it doesn't have any lasting value. Their wealth won't save their souls, their wealth won't fix their relationship with God, their wealth won't buy their way out of God's judgment for their sins. Real lasting value is found in living a righteous life. A relationship with God is worth more than all the money in the world. When God is your treasure and holiness is your lifestyle, you have no reason to envy the poor billionaires with their temporal resources. So that's our study today in Proverbs chapter 10. I'm looking forward to going through the next couple chapters. I think we're going to get a lot out of it, and hopefully we'll all be wiser by the end of it. So join us tomorrow, Lord willing, for Proverbs 11, and I hope you have a fantastic day today.